If you have been following me, you will understand that in recent time I have been teaching all the lessons that you can learn from the Marriage Act, which regulates and governs statutory marriages in Nigeria. It is I, alright Eigbe, your favorite family and divorce lawyer, and this is your family lawyer that happens every Tuesday at 7 p.m. on this particular platform. Right now, in recent time, I decided to share with us what the Marriage Act says. And from the Marriage Act, I'll be moving to the Matrimonial Causes Act. I will also explore the Matrimonial Causes rules. Perhaps you will have a better understanding of the Nigeria Marriage Act and what statutory marriage is all about. If you follow, you would have understood from our first episodes that in Nigeria we have two primary types of marriage. We have the polygamous marriages and non-polygamous marriages. So under the polygamous marriage, we have the marriages that are based on the different traditions and the different cultures in our country as dictated by the different tribes respectively. Then we have the Islamic marriage, and under non-polygamous marriages we have the statutory marriage, which people generally call court marriage, federal government marriage, marriage registry, and all of that, right? But we said that the proper word for is the proper name for that marriage that people call court marriage, federal government marriage, church marriage, marriage registry is called statutory marriage, and that's because it is based on the Marriage Act. So today I'll be continuing the conversation to see how to help you understand the Marriage Act better and know what Nigeria law actually says about marriage. So today we are discussing on the marriage formalities under the Marriage Act. So what do I mean by the marriage formalities? I'm going to be talking about where can a statutory marriage be conducted, right? For you to say this marriage is valid, where can it be conducted? And statutory marriage, now we are referring to by statutory marriage, we are referring to marriages under the Marriage Act. So we are talking about where can these marriages be conducted. We are looking at the roles of the registrar and the licensed place of worship. We are looking at the roles and place of the witnesses, the minister's role if you are doing it in the church, and also the form of solemnization. Not that I would still want to talk about what makes a marriage certificate valid. So these are the things that I want to explore today. So thank you for joining me. This is our module 3 because last week I decided to just talk on something neutral to help you understand things best. So now that you're here, I want to believe you want to understand our Marriage Act better, to know how to do your marriage, to know how to get married, how to do the marriage. And now it is not how to divorce. When it comes to how to divorce, we'll be looking at the Matrimonial Causes Act. But the Marriage Act focuses on how to get married and what makes your marriage valid, right? Now, a statutory marriage must take place at a legally recognized venue, right? So before you can say, oh, I have a statutory marriage and the rest, the law expects that it must have happened in a place that is legally recognized. And what does it mean for us to say a place is legally recognized? It means that it must be at a marriage registry. Two people can own marriage registries in Nigeria. The federal government, in the sense that the Ministry of Interiors, because the Ministry of Interiors is the one that is actually in charge of marriages in Nigeria. So the Ministry of Interiors can have a marriage registry where you can go and get married. The most popular of them all is the Ikoyi, the marriage registry. The federal government of Nigeria, Ministry of Interior marriage registry at Ikoyi happens to be the most popular marriage registry, federal government owned marriage registry in Nigeria, right? Now, aside that, a local government, yes, local governments of Nigeria also have the power to have a marriage registry. Now, so it's either you are using that of the federal or you are using that of the local government. States do not have, right? States do not have marriage registries. Now, it's either you are doing it in the federal government marriage registry, or on the alternative, you are doing it at a local government marriage registry. If you are not doing it at a marriage registry, you may want to do it in a licensed place of worship. So licensed place of worship means that a church or a mosque or any other religious place that has been licensed by the Minister of Interiors, that has been licensed, and they have their license from the Ministry of Interiors, by the Minister of Interiors, for them to conduct marriage. And not just that, any other place, right, that has now been licensed by the Minister of Interiors, by the Ministry of Interiors, or by the governor of that state for the purpose of a statutory marriage. So if you want to have your statutory marriage at a garden, you want to have it in a ceremonial hall, you want to have it in your house, you will need license of the governor of that state or that of the Minister of Interiors for you to be able to have that marriage there. So these are some of the things you need to understand. Now we are going to be looking at what is the role of the marriage registrar. Like I mentioned, that was one of the first things we are going to be doing. The role of a marriage registrar and also a licensed place of worship. Now, for us to be able to understand their role, we need to understand the first things that I shared. Because, for example, the registrar will officiate at a marriage registry, and a licensed minister will officiate in a church, right? Now, the act, which is the marriage act, actually allows a registrar of marriage to officiate the marriage registry in a marriage registry. So if you go to a marriage registry and somebody is to officiate over a marriage, conduct a marriage, what the marriage act says is that that person has to be the marriage registrar of that particular marriage registry. If you are doing it in a church or in a mosque, what the law says that it can be officiated, it should only be officiated by a licensed minister, right? By a recognized minister of that particular licensed place of worship. So let's assume we are doing this marriage in Global Harvest Church. We cannot call a pastor from Winners to come and do the joining, right? A pastor from Winners can come and preach, that's fine. But the joining of the couple must be done by a recognized minister, an ordained minister of that particular church, right? So that if a minister from another church comes to do it, it will not be recognized. If the ordained minister of that church is an ordained minister of that denomination, yes, it can also work, because you want to say it is the same church, right? They are all ordained of the same church. If it's an imam, it has to be the imam of that particular place, right? The imam of that particular mosque where the ceremony is being held. What if it is held in a place that is not a church, or in a place that is not a marriage registry? Any other place where it's being held, although the law is not so clear, but if we follow the tensions of the law, the person that will be able to officiate it will be the marriage registrar. Now, I know there are some people who say they want to have a church wedding, they want to have a Christian wedding. Okay, now, they want to have a Christian wedding, but they don't want the Christian wedding to be in a church, they want it to be in a hall, they want it to be in a garden, and they call their pastor to come and do the joining. It can be argued that that marriage is not valid, because what actually gives the pastor the right to be able to do the joining are two important things. The first important thing is that that pastor is that the church where the marriage is happening is a licensed place of worship. Then the second important thing after that is that it is a pastor of that place, of that particular church. So now, if the marriage is being held at a garden, or the marriage is being held at a hall, that hall is not a licensed place of worship. That garden is not a licensed place of worship. Because it is not a licensed place of worship, a pastor cannot do the joining. That is my argument about it. So the safest thing to do is that it should be done by a marriage registrar, right? Now, a licensed minister must read a set form of words confirming the marriage is a union of one man and one woman entered freely and for life, right? And not just that, and if you are marrying a place of worship, the certificate that must be issued must still be entered in the marriage registry. For those of you who may have done your statutory marriage in a church, you will notice that your church will always send you to a marriage registry to go and pick forms from there, or to take copies, duplicates of your marriage certificate to them. Because if the marriage registry that governs the jurisdiction of that church, the local government of that church, the area of that church, does not register the marriage, it may not be regarded as valid. Now, remember I said that it must be conducted by the marriage registrar if it's at a marriage registry or in a neutral place, or it must be by the pastor of that particular denomination if it is done in a church, or the imam of that mosque if it is done in that mosque. Another thing you need to understand is that the marriage must have two witnesses. Now, it does not mean that the husband must have two witnesses, the wife must have two witnesses. No, the marriage must have two witnesses. So if there are people that are called that must be at every statutory marriage, number one will be the couple. Number two will be the person who has the power to join them together, which will either be a marriage registrar or a pastor of that particular church or imam of that particular mosque. Number three will be at least two witnesses. Now, if you see, I did not say parents. I did not mention parents or guardians, because parents and guardians are not mandatory if the couple, they are more than 21 years old, and also if they are less than 21 years old, but they are already married under any custom, right? If they are married under any custom or tradition, they don't need parental consent to do statutory marriage. If they are more than 21 years old, they don't need parental consent to do statutory marriage. So that's why I'm not putting it as one of the core things. The first core thing will be that there must be the couple must be present. You cannot do your marriage in absentia, like the way you do in a traditional marriage, that they will show your picture or your sibling will be there to represent you. It does not work like that in a statutory marriage. The couple must be physically present. The officiating minister must also, or the officiating officer must also be present. And we must have the minimum of two witnesses. Now, there are things that are prescribed that must be followed, which the Marriage Act has already stated that should be followed. So one of it is, I do solemnly declare that I know not of any lawful impediment why I, for example, alright Eigbe, may not be joined in matrimony to Vivian Iotium, right? So that is one declaration that you are supposed to say. Interestingly, while you are exchanging your vows, you must do it in the presence of the witnesses. Your witnesses must be present. Your witnesses must be there. In the course of this series, I am going to share with you what the marriage vows ought to be, because the law also states what the marriage vows will be. It's very clear what the marriage vows will be. So you are not actually, the law does not actually, I will check it, but it does not give you the discretion to actually write your own vows. Right? It does not actually give you the discretion to write your own vows and the rest. It actually has its own vows, but many people don't use it. But then the court has not actually pronounced that much on it, because it has never been an issue in court. But on the day to be an issue in court, it is my belief that the court will agree that what the marriage vows ought to be is as stipulated in the Marriage Act, right? Now, the couple must exchange declarations and give consent in the presence of the witnesses and the officials that they actually want to marry each other. So even if you are having a church-style ceremony, it is the use of this format and the recording of the marriage in the official marriage register that must be followed. That will make your marriage recognized by law. So, okay, now let's look at what are the things that will make the marriage certificate valid. What will make the marriage certificate valid is that the marriage was signed by the couple. So I cannot sign for somebody. Your best man cannot sign for you, right? Your best man can be your witness. Your maid of honor can be your witness if you have those two people. But then it says for a marriage certificate to be valid, it has to have the signature of the two people who did the marriage. It has to have the signature of the person that officiated the marriage, either the pastor or the marriage registrar or the imam. It also have to carry the signature of the two witnesses. It must carry the official seal of the marriage registry or of the church. Now, these are things that are very important. Like you see again, parents are not called, so it must not carry the signature of the parents. Right? It must not carry the signature of the parents. Now, if you don't follow this procedure and the rest, you are most likely going to be having issues. We have seen situations where people have marriage certificates and one person did not sign, maybe due to an omission or due to something else. But trust me, when that happens, it becomes something that affects the core of the marriage. Will the court regard it as regular? The court may regard it, if they feel it was just happening, but no. Lack of signature is not irregular. It is fundamental, right? So when you are doing your statutory marriage, ensure that the couple signs, the officiating officer signs, and the two witnesses signs. Once this is done, then and there's the official seal is also on it. These are the things that will make your marriage legal, that will make that certificate also legal. There are many other things that I would like to share with you, but I think it will be okay if we wrap this up here because we have a lot of lessons to share, learning the Marriage Act one Tuesday at a time. All right. So follow me, subscribe, like, share this with your friends, and ensure that next week, Tuesday, 7 p.m., you're back on this platform to know what is the next thing that I'll be sharing to help you understand. Perhaps you're already married and you want to know if your marriage is valid. These lessons will help you. Perhaps you're married, you want to divorce, or you want to do things together as husband and wife. It's not even divorce. You want to acquire property, you want to go into some business and the rest. You need to follow this series. Are you single? Then this series is very important for you. So join me again 7 p.m. next week, Tuesday, on the same platform as I continue my discourse on the Marriage Act, learning what the Nigeria Marriage Act says. It is I, alright, Eigbe, and I have done this live from the ancient and modern city of Ibadan, Nigeria. Thank you so much for following me. If you have any questions, you can use the details on this particular episode to reach out to me, or you find a lawyer that is closest to you. I would like to repeat this and say it again, that what I share here is not professional advice. So that if you need professional advice, you can contact us directly or contact a lawyer that is close to you. You rock.